Okay, and welcome back, students who are taking math for business and finance and math applications. And we're continuing on with the chapter 13 word problems, the odd numbered problems. And we left off on 13-17. Right? So Joseph Company borrowed money that must be repaid in 20 years. The company wants to make sure that the loan will be repaid at the end of year 20, so it invests $12,500 at the end of each year. So that's my payment at the end of each year. So ordinary annuity, right? Let's see here. At 12% interest, so that's the rate, compounded annually. And what was the amount of the original loan? So we have 20 years is the time frame. So jump up to our ordinary annuity table. And we're looking at, let's see here, 12% interest, okay, for 20 years. And that gives us a factor of 72.0524. So 72.0524, and we're multiplying that by $12,500, and we end up with, let's see here, 72.0524 times 12.5. We end up with 900,655 even. Simple as that. Easy. No more complicated. Right, next problem. Toby Martin invests 1,200 at the end of each year. I mean 2,000. Where did I get 1,200? 2,000. That's my payment at the end of each year. Ordinary annuity for 10 years time frame. Okay, at 11% interest. That's the rate, compounded annually. What is the final value of Toby's investment at the end of year 10? You know, no different than the last problem. Okay, so 11% for 10 years. 11%, 10 years. The factor is 16.7220. 16.7220, and we're the payment is 2,000, so we multiply by 2,000. For 14, 13, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. We end up with $33,444. Okay, simple as that. 21. Okay, at the beginning of each period for 10 years. At the beginning of each period for 10 years, Merrill Agnes invests 500 semi-annually at 6%. What is the cash value of the annuity due at the end of year 10? Okay, so remember, with the annuity due, we have to take the number of periods and we add 1, okay? And then when we have our total amount after we use the factor, okay, so we find the factor, do the math, and then we have to subtract out one of our payments, right? So let's jump up to the table. Okay, and I'm going to erase this here. Erase the lines. Okay, so we had, let's see here, we're going to be looking, and it was semi-annually, so I'm sorry, let me go back down here. Okay, so this is semi-annually, all right? and so it's for 10 years. So remember, and I had spoke about this in the last video, in the very first problem, that we had become accustomed to annually. Everything all of the problems seem to be annually. Okay, but I had said, well, what happens if it's semi-annually? Well, again, this is the same as working through the lump sum compounding periods. If you had quarterly, right? If you had quarterly, that would be 4 periods. Semi-annually is 2, right? Weekly is 52, right? Okay, so in this case here, we're not looking, maybe have gotten into a rut thinking, annually, annually, annually. But here we're actually looking at semi-annually. So if we have our number of periods as 10 years, right? That means we have to multiply it by 2 because it's semi-annually, which gives us 20 periods. And for our interest rate, that's 6%. We have to divide by 2 in order to get 3% for the compounding per period. Right? So now when we go to look in our table, since this here is an annuity due, we take our 20 periods and we have to add 1 period to it. So we're going to be looking for 21 periods, all right? Not 10 and not 20, 21. Right? We will be looking for 3%. So let's jump up and we look under the 3% and 21 periods. It's not on this table. Okay, so that means you have to go into the Business Math Handbook and look up the factor. Okay, I mean, you could extrapolate it from this chart, but that's just doing a lot of extra heavy-duty math that you don't need. So go into the Business Math Handbook now and look that up, right? Without, pause the video and find that before I actually tell you what it is, so that you make sure that you're doing it right. Okay? If I tell you what it is and then you go look at the table, and you can quickly mentally find that number, but did it actually mean you did it right? All right, because you're going to be looking for that factor if I tell you first. So pause the video and find it. Okay, hopefully you paused the video. I certainly didn't. But the factor, when I look up 21 periods at 3%, right, my factor ends up being 28.6765. Okay, and we multiply that factor by the $500. Okay, so here, here was number 1, where we increased the number of periods by 1, and now we're looking at the factor, number 2. Okay, so we're multiplying by the factor here, and we end up with 14,338.25. Okay, so that was like step number 2. So now we have our 14,338.25. And then step number 3 is that we have to subtract out one of the payments. Okay, so over here in step number 3, we have to subtract out the $500, and we end up with $13,838.25. Okay, so that's the value of the annuity due at the end of 10 years. Okay, so 3 steps when it comes to the annuity due. Change the number of periods by adding 1. We find the factor and then multiply by the payment, and then we have to subtract out the payment. Okay. All right, so with that said, I'm going to pause here and go into the next video.